Calling to order this evening's meeting, May 1st, 2024. It is our work session, our first meeting of the month. We have several presentations this evening to listen to, and a couple motions will be needed as we go through the agenda. Let's call our meeting to order and have a roll call, please.
Thank you. Councilmember Chmielewski.
Present.
Councilmember Cerna.
Here.
Councilmember Barton.
Here.
Councilmember Elam.
Here.
Councilmember Fry.
Here.
Vice President Kingsley.
Here.
President Sokolowski.
Here.
Mayor Aronson.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, from an announcement perspective, I wanted to just let folks know that prior to this work session, the Borough Council held an executive session related to legal, personnel, and property matters. First item on the agenda this evening is our presentations. So for the first presentation, we will have the community garden, Nicole Zapata, the chair, come up to the podium and give us an update, please. Oh, no, Nicole.
I'm okay. Oh, thank you. It's good weight-bearing activity for me. Thank you. I'll be out there soon. Thank you for having us here today. And I know I only have 10 minutes, so if I get close to going over, please feel free to flag me down. My name is Nicole Zapata. I know most of you, and I've been a part of the community garden since the inception in 2011. There's several people on Borough Council have also been members or are currently members of the garden. And then with us, I have two of our co-chairs, Michelle Zhu and Stephanos Sakris, and Peggy Lee is also here, who formerly was our treasurer. So, treasurer, secretary. So I just wanted to share with you what we've been up to for the past several years, just to thank you for your ongoing support for the community garden and for designating this very special space for the community and for the 72 plots and probably double that members that participate in the community garden each year. So since about 2015, we've had a full garden with a wait list. It's varied anywhere from 8 during COVID, that was the lowest ever on our wait list, to 25. At any, on average, 15, 16 is kind of in the range. And so we are very grateful for the great response from the community. So this is going to be really hard to read, and I won't go line by line, but the intention was to share with you some of the projects. The reason I'm here is because we had a meeting at the beginning of the spring, and I had been going through my notes trying to prepare for our first member meeting, and I just noticed through the notes, I was like, wow, we've really made a lot of progress in the past couple of years, and I was really proud of that, and so I shared it with the members. Councilperson Cerna was with us because he's a member of the community garden and asked, hey, you should probably share that. And I met with the borough manager, Mrs. Checo, and here I am. So thanks to great ideas that are brought constantly by our members, but especially I have to acknowledge Steph in bringing electric equipment. So we went from all gas-powered equipment to electric a few years ago. It's hugely popular with our members, really easy to operate. They were not expensive, and I can't say enough good things about them. So Stefan, also another board member of ours, installed a new brick paver entranceway, which I can personally say from a mobility standpoint is really nice. Our compost has been a labor of love since the beginning. We started with one compost bin built by Borough Public Works, and then we added a second one. We've divided it into 4 chambers. We've tinkered with the movement of all of the material. The intention has always been to process as much of the waste going out from the plots as we can and reduce the number of lawn bags that are being put out for Borough Public Works, and also bringing that kind of material back into the soil. So we're doing pretty good. We have someone on our board monitoring the temperature and really trying to cook it. It's labor intensive, but we're constantly studying that. And our next plan is to erect sort of a roof over top to protect it from the variation in temperature that comes with sun and rain and such and such. This Saturday, on May 4th, I met with Mrs. Checo, and we are going forward with a compost collection site that will be starting at the garden. So if you're familiar with Back to Earth Compost, they pick up curbside for about 20 residents in Conshohocken. We collaborated with her over the winter to find a way for our gardeners and any surrounding community members, it's not confined to residents, to do a 5-gallon drop-off system. And so you can bring a 5-gallon bucket of compost scraps from your kitchen or your garden and drop them off for $5 at the curb from 9:30 to 12:30 on Saturday. So we're piloting this, and we're really excited. If you're interested in participating, there's no commitment. It's a little bit different than the curbside participation, which is a subscription. This offers you a little more flexibility, and you can drop off there or Maple Acres or Malvern. And so it's less methane gas going, or less organic material going to the incinerator. So the CNC plant giveaway, I am going line by line. I'm really sorry. I am. Is this okay? I'm going to just power through. The CNC donation program that we started a while back was something Paul McConnell, one of our founders and past borough president or borough council president, was passionate about. It was giving back to the community and engaging with the Colonial Neighborhood Council. And so we started giving excess donations. We expanded from just like, hey, this is an email, do you have excess tomatoes, leave them in the shed, to a full memorial donation plot in Paul's honor when he passed. We expanded that to a plot and a half. We have had the Rotary at one point growing only for CNC. The Conshohocken Elementary School grows for families that maintain and CNC, if that's up to the family's choice. And then a few years ago, how long ago, Michelle? Maybe 3? 3 years ago, we thought, would it be great to give plants to families who visit the CNC to start growing at home? And so in partnership with White Marsh Township, we borrow a little greenhouse space and we grow plants. And we've been giving away probably between 110 and 140 each year to the CNC. And so we kind of stay in the range of the popular summer bounty of peppers, tomatoes, herbs, and eggplant. And so we're doing that drop-off this week, I believe, of the things that we've grown. Let's see. We've started doing new events during meetings to try to decrease the kind of monotony of garden reminders and behavior stuff and increase the education. So we did a bamboo trellis building, seed swap, and we are expanding a little bit of our fall growing, trying to encourage our gardeners to use their plots in the fall to grow more food. The wildflower garden along the front fence was installed by one of our members to increase pollinator visits. We started participating in the Conchi Green Fest last year, thanks to the EAC, who put on an awesome second annual last weekend. And we wanted to say thank you for our new sign. Oh, I get to control it. Cool. Okay, so community engagement. Again, I mentioned Paul's passion for community engagement. I share that passion, and so does all of our board. And so this is just run down. I think I'm duplicating, so we'll one quick thing to mention is the Conshohocken Free Library has, as far back as 3 library managers approached us about doing a seed library, and we could just never figure out quite how to do it. And thanks to Holly Holst at the Conshohocken Free Library, who is also a long-term member at the garden, it is off and running. And so we are basically just supporting them. She has taken the reins and created that program. And as far as I can tell, it's going very well. Okay, we did all this. Great. I'm really a big fan of our pictures. I hope that you've had a chance to visit the community garden and walk through. If you haven't, please come by and visit. We are low tech and just really enjoy being there. So that's the reason for all the pictures, because it really tells the story of, just the magic of the place. And we pursue still a chemical-free gardening approach. We encourage gardeners to learn about companion planting and soil health, low or no dig methods to support the ecosystem, which is pretty special considering we're a former, correct me if I get this wrong, a former like macadam site, like a parking lot, right? Which is pretty awesome. So our membership is diverse in age, gardening experience, abilities, education, ethnicities, and economics. We have social gatherings 3 times a year, which are potluck style, and they're really a lot of fun, special to us, and connect the community. We have gardeners that come out that are sort of like low on the social aspect in the garden, but then will come out and kind of participate, and we don't require it, obviously. Some people just prefer to kind of earbud and garden, and that's okay too. And I just wanted to share your impact as the borough, that we obviously would not be here without you, that your support affects so many. You help us to implement new programs, to invest in garden infrastructure, and explore more sustainable ways to operate. Our member fees do cover all of our operating expenses. We have an excellent treasurer who's been on board for a long time. And, we're pretty good stewards of our finances, but we've been appreciating donations from the Sewer Authority for several years now that help us do new things and invest in things like electric equipment and projects in the future. So your support affects not only just the members of our community garden, but the people who walk by, the people who visit the library, the people who and interact with the elementary school plot, and all the CNC recipients. And that's it. Thank you.
Anyone have any questions for Nicole? Sure.
How much does a membership cost?
Thank you. That's a great question. So we have a 2-tier membership. It's $45 for a working member for the year, and then $65 for what we call a standard membership. So we still expect each plot to participate in 1 work day, but if you work more than that, if you like to be there and kind of like to clean up general spaces and kick in more, it's less.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Nicole, I just want to say that I love the community garden. I did have a plot at one time, but it overtook me, so I had to give up on that. But what I wanted to say was I take my daughter down to the garden as a sensory and de-escalation place to be, and it really works just being able to walk up and down the aisles, talk about the colors, talk about the vegetables and the fruits that we're seeing in there. And I wanted to say that really brings comfort to parents who need that type of escape for their children. So thank you.
Thank you. Emotional. Thank you.
Nicole, just from an operating perspective, you had mentioned that was a donation from the Sewer Authority on an annual basis. Was that sufficient, and what amount was that? And is there anything that you would like Borough Council to consider as we move into budget season?
Thank you. That's such a great question. The Borough Authority has donated consistently, I believe, for 5 years, $1,000 each year.
Okay.
So that's contributed to our infrastructure and capital, kind of has helped us maintain borders and do, new things that are infrastructure based. We are currently workshopping, we're always workshopping, a great idea, but a small solar panel to power. Steph takes all the batteries for our equipment home and charges them, and he's always at the garden, but it's working great while he's here, but we like to set up our systems that are sustainable for when we're not on the board. So we are exploring that, and that would take not a huge investment, but a several $1,000s investment to get us set up. It would be wonderful if the borough would consider, donating to the garden just to give us the ability to do infrastructure improvements or, new projects. Okay. Was I supposed to say a number?
No,
Okay.
I wanted to,
I was like, I don't have a number.
No, I'm not looking for a specific number. I just want the concept of understanding that there is a financial need in order to keep, as President Sokolowski said, this amenity that exists in the borough for all different reasons.
And so, thank you, because so the part of your question I didn't answer was it sufficient? So what we've done for the past few years is squirrel it away, right? Like, so we squirrel it away, and then we carefully consider every project, right? Because every project feels like a good idea, but we try to be stewards of that capital. So yes and no, right? It's been sufficient to date. We could spend it like that on some of the ideas we've been talking about for several years. So,
Okay.
to give
Well, I
you,
appreciate that feedback. That helps, yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other
Thank you.
questions?
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Nicole. Thank you for all of your work in the community garden. Okay, next item on the agenda is we will invite Chris Zioli from the Colonial Soccer Club to present on the behalf of the soccer club. They're requesting a utilization of our borough fields at a discounted or free rate.
Thank you. So I'd like to first start by thanking Ms. Checo for initially meeting with us and then prepping us to get us in front of this council. So very appreciative, Stephanie, for the opportunity. So my name's Chris Zioli. I was a 16-year resident of Conshohocken, and then I made the decision in 2019 to move a full 800 feet from Pleasant Valley Drive into Cardinal View. But I love my time there, so if I have any say, I would approve the Pleasant Valley block party that I was part of for all those years. But all kidding aside, I'm joined by Jim Jameson, who's the recently elected president of Colonial Soccer Club. So today, I don't have the presentation up. However, we put together a pre-read for everyone. I don't know if everyone had a chance to go through it. I'll summarize it really quickly. I don't have a nice presentation like Nicole, so forgive me. Nicole, you did a great job if you're still here. But for those of you that don't know Colonial Soccer Club, we're a local 501c3 primarily benefiting the youth of Conshohocken, White Marsh, and Plymouth. Our size, we're approximately about 1,900, 2,000 kids benefiting from our program. The program has increased exponentially since 2019, so I think the number of unique kids benefiting from our program has doubled. The number of programming registrations has actually tripled over that same time frame. So unbelievable growth. We're very proud of it. I think one of the struggles or what we have is that we feel that we can still do more for the community at large. One of the issues with this exponential growth is that we're sort of been hemmed in by infrastructure. So we currently have fields that we utilize in Plymouth and White Marsh that we have, but we feel that we can do more. We can add more programming and we can add more kids to it. So one of the primary reasons that we're here and the ask is that we're looking to create what we hope is a mutually beneficial partnership with the Conshohocken Borough and potentially become tenants and maybe eventually primary tenants of both the A and B fields here in Conshohocken. Just to give you a little bit more about Colonial Soccer Club too, in terms of its size, just to give you some relative scale, is that Eastern Pennsylvania, if you don't know much about it, is actually for districting purposes, actually considered its own state. So it's one of 5 states that actually have had over 100,000 kids playing soccer in the state, and we happen to be part of that. And Colonial actually is the 3rd largest out of all of them, actually second to Westchester and Haverford. So two townships that are relatively close to us. So that gives you kind of the size and scale of what we're dealing with. And again, that I think we actually still have the bandwidth to do more. It's just that, again, we are kind of hemmed in infrastructure-wise, i.e. fields, which we know that a lot of teams clamor for. So that's sort of why we're here. Happy to answer any questions that relates to the club. Jim, feel free to add whatever I missed.
No, I mean, we're just really happy to be here, excited for the opportunity. Ralph is coaching right now for our spring IM program over at Ridge Park, so he's very familiar with what we're doing here. For the first time ever, we're offering programming for younger kids. We're trying to get the kids younger so they stay with us. Just like any other sport, we're dealing with a lot of pay-to-play infrastructures like FC Delco and Penn Fusion and such that try to attract kids at a young age and then keep them. We want to be able to offer that programming for your 4 and your 5 and your 6-year-olds. That way they stay with Colonial, stay within their community. So like Chris says, if you guys have any questions, we're more than happy to answer them.
What is your age range?
Our age range right now is about 4 to 18. Yeah,
Do you see any of those kids going on with scholarships?
Sure. I mean, our club actually offers its own scholarship program. We just actually awarded 3 scholarships to 3 seniors that will be going to college. So they $1,500 a piece.
Okay.
And then the governing body and league that we play for actually has its own scholarship program. So the general meeting was just last week, and there was 12 area youth that actually have all got scholarships for college. I was actually saying to Jim prior to this meeting is that we don't socialize that enough with our Colonial Soccer Club kids. So as long as they have played in that league, it actually just makes them eligible, regardless of how many years they play. But because we're one of the members, it actually makes them eligible for those scholarships as well.
And the actual EPYSA governing body is actually on Butler Pike. So we have a really good relationship with them. The guy who runs it is actually a former Colonial president.
Will you be still using the fields in White Marsh and Plymouth in addition to Conshohocken or just exclusively Conshohocken?
No, it would be an added field for us.
Can you tell me about your TOPS program?
Sure. We should have invited Jeff. We have two new members, Rick and Jay, who are up taking over the program for us. It's for underprivileged, disadvantaged kids. We offer it in the fall only. We are currently working with both Whitpain, and Whitpain has their own program, and then some other programs, Hunter and Upper Dublin, which are over in Glenside. They offer programs as well. We have about, I think it was 25 kids last year. It takes place in PW Stadium. There's specific programming for them. We adjust it based upon how it works on the day for them. But yeah, we have two new members who are really excited to take over the program. They've been with those kids for 4 or 5 years, I believe, in a smaller capacity, but have taken over the program.
We typically have to run it at the stadium because of some of the physical disabilities with the kids. It has to be on a flatter surface, so it's typically done in the stadium on the turf surface. So we've ran into some issues where we have to use some of the fields that are typically beat up in the spring, right? Because people are on there over the winter kind of beating them up. So we typically have to do it at the stadium or another turf facility for that, just for their safety.
Okay.
Are you a three-season sport?
So it's
Four-season?
Yeah, it depends. So it's year-round for
Okay.
the most part for teams that want to do it.
Okay.
But we actually do pride ourselves that we're actually a multi-sport club. So when kids are playing our program, we actually do ask for fall commitment. And, the expectations are set from the beginning. But when it does come to spring, while we offer spring programming, particularly on the travel side, we are aware that there's softball, there's lacrosse, and there's baseball that compete with that. So we actually don't make any type of mandate that the kids have to play soccer first, but we do ask in the fall that we become first priority. And sometimes we win, sometimes we lose.
What percentage or numbers are you pulling from Conshohocken?
So it's about 25% right now. So it's up from, I think, 15. I think my number, I should put my glasses on. So it was about 15% 5 years ago. It's about 25% now. We account for, in full transparency, we account for 1 to 2% deviation because we can't split between. It's really hard to split between Conchi mailing address, which I am in Pleasantville or in Cardinal View, versus Conchi proper. So it's about 1 to 2%, we believe.
But it's still 25% of the total 1,800. Okay.
Correct.
I have a question. This might be more for the borough manager, but do we have, are there currently other soccer programs renting any of our fields?
Soccer, no. There is in-house programming that the borough runs, soccer shots, et cetera, which we would continue because they're so successful. But the way we're looking at this partnership is that we have such a demand for soccer shots at that young age that this then gives continuity of being able to move from soccer shots up to a higher level, up to a competitive level. It's kind of providing families in Conshohocken the full package in terms of participation up and down, whether you want to just learn the game or compete at the game. So it'd be a partnership.
Yeah, I'll chime in because I volunteered for Colonial for 4 years now. I've coached kindergarten up through 3rd grade until I was not a good enough coach, and I couldn't coach anymore. I'm not saying I'm a great coach. However, I'm good with the young ones. I'm coaching my daughter who's 4 years old right now. But one of the things that really we've done with my daughters is especially they do programs around days when the kids have off, which for myself and my wife is insanely valuable because they are actually looking at the schedule that mirrors to school, and you're able to put them in a half day where myself and my wife can actually work and get stuff done, and then they get to go and participate in that. And I will say that to your, I think it was your question, Alan, about the amount of kids from Conshohocken, like, I know because I coach all of them, I see them all. There's more that are actually coming into that group, especially in the younger age ranges, and hopefully moving forward with more teenagers as these kids who are here today grow here, right? Yeah, so that, and age range wise, do you have, I can't remember, did you put numbers down on there with what your age range looks like, the mix right now, or did we not look at that?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't think we did age, we just did gender breakdown,
Yeah,
which is about 50.
Our largest groups are our youngest groups.
Yeah.
It probably at the intramural level, it starts to drop off after about the 2-3 league. Our second and third grade league is our largest league. We had 220 boys in it last year, and that was just the boys' side. How many of those are Conshohocken? We don't have that breakdown, but yeah, it's most, the travel side pretty much stays pretty level until they get to be about high school age. We have 2 teams at each sex for each travel league. But we see a drop off. But I mean, we had, I think it was 130 kids and boys and 110 girls at 4 or 5 last year. So it's not a small league. It's just our biggest numbers are third grade and down.
And can you speak to what specifically, like, uses of the A field you'd be looking for, you know, in the short term here?
Yeah, in the ask, we did say that we'd primarily probably use B field for practices and probably intramural games for that. For the A field, we saw that as more kind of a showcase venue for it, so we'd probably only utilize that for travel games only as a venue. Very similar, same way we kind of use the stadium as well at PW, so that's what we are envisioning. We are in the early stages of actually creating our own tournament, so we could potentially be utilizing both those fields for games, depending on the age bracket, but the use of the A field we see is kind of more of the showcase. We wouldn't want to practice on it and beat it up all year. We'd probably just want to utilize it for games only, and potentially only probably for even some of the older kids as well, because, you know, I'm assuming that's probably at a dimension where we can use like maximum size for it, whereas we get hemmed in a little bit by like the field at GPCC, which you can't use for some of the older age brackets just because of the dimensions.
I'm going to ask a question out of my comfort zone because I know nothing about soccer
No, this is-
other than you run up and down and kick a ball. What's the difference between how you use the field in soccer versus football, and what type of conditions do you need set up for soccer versus football?
I would simply tell you as someone that's been coaching since my daughters were in kindergarten, all I need is a flat space with grass. But again, because of what I would say is because of the amount of programming we do, the amount of kids we do, you can probably appreciate the fields get beat up pretty quick. So they're usually pretty good from until about like mid-October, and then they start to fall off a cliff for that, and just because of the amount of kids. But you have to keep in mind a lot of the fields that we're utilizing, the middle school's using them too, and the high school is using them as well. Not to mention there's other sports in the area. Similar to ours, not the size and scale of ours, but Colonial Field Hockey and Conshohocken Bulldogs lacrosse are also using a majority of the fields that we're utilizing too. So just you put all of that together, the fields they last for a decent amount of time. I will give you that, but I would say mid-October is when they start to.
So do you use the whole yards?
Generally.
Yeah, so in 11.
I told you, I'm out of my comfort
Yeah, it's
zone,
all right.
but when I watch it on TV, they look like they're running forever.
So there's three different sizes. There's a 7v7 field, a 9v9 field, and an 11v11 field. The Conshohocken B field is actually a 9v9 field. The A field would be an 11v11 field, so that is U13 and above. U12 and U11 play 9s, and then U10 and down play 7s. When they get down into, kindergarten, they're usually just playing 4-on-4 on a glorified hockey net, basically.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Sure, no problem.
Brings up a good point, though. What about, we don't have any soccer goal setups. Do you?
That would be something the club would provide.
We would donate
So
that.
you're not looking for that from us?
Yeah.
Because I can't picture on either one of those fields even has that?
No, the B field does. The B field has the goals.
It does? Okay.
Yeah, the B field has. The B
Yeah,
field
but
has.
the A field doesn't. We would supply those.
Okay.
You do your own markings also?
Yes.
Markings like paint the fields, yes.
We have
do
a
that, so-
company that does it for us.
We
And we
have a
would-
question in the audience.
I too am not great with soccer. My concern is the A field. Is that an AstroTurf field?
No.
Is that an AstroTurf?
No.
It's grass.
Oh, it's grass?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
Do you find any problems with the kids with the turf?
So what I would tell you is that, so there's some early studies when turf started to become much more prevalent, that it was actually particularly bad for women because of their hips. Now, there's been more studies that have saying that regardless of gender, it's actually okay, and there's conflicting studies that say it's actually not good to continue to play on these artificial surfaces. I will say that from when the time I was playing the artificial surface to now, it is
Night and day.
vastly
Yeah,
different.
vastly different.
Yeah, that's what
It's
I
very,
heard.
it's very, very forgiving now. So yes, the technology has come a long way, but early signs when these turf fields started coming out it was actually particularly more harmful for women because they were seeing an increase in ACL injuries specifically in women.
I was more worried about the road rash.
Yeah, plenty of those. The turf we used to play on when we were kids was actually basically just concrete with a glorified carpet on top of it. Now it's a lot different.
So in terms of operations, the proposal that was submitted to you in your meeting materials, as we discussed in terms of preparing for your submission to Borough Council for consideration, is the wish list. It is the wish list for use of the B field and the A field, the dates and the times. We, from a recreation department, and Lauren was included in those meetings, are evaluating that request. I can tell you that the full request is not going to be feasible just because of the other items that are already scheduled or the other programming that is scheduled. But if Borough Council is inclined to enter into a partnership with the Colonial Soccer Club, then what we would be doing as an administration is breaking down what their request was with what fits with the rest of the department and what else is going on with the department, and then working out what the nuances and the arrangement would be. There is a waiver request for the fees that are associated with the rental, correct? Yes, that's something you would like them to consider?
Yes.
So with all things that we do from an operational perspective, there's costs that are involved. Those costs are the field maintenance, the personnel that are involved with that field maintenance, any oversight that we may need. We did discuss personnel from your club actually
Yes.
being on site. So you want to talk a little bit about that? in terms
Yeah,
of what
we
that would
actually have a board
entail?
member that lives across the street from the A field. He would be our point person. That would be, I know to be a set of keys or however it would work that way. He would be the scheduler. He wouldn't necessarily be the person that would be there all the time. He's got 2 kids that are in the club too. But he would be the point person for it. He would be, he's the closest person that we have, and then of course Ralph's around the corner too, so.
So like with all the other rentals, there would be an agreement that's put in place. There would be insurances that were required. We would agree upon a schedule that would work for both entities. Year one, just because we're moving into the summer, fall season already, a lot has already been scheduled.
Sure.
So year one will be kind of a trial year. I think that's probably best for both entities. And then if it works out and it's positive and you're comfortable, given the fact that you have roughly a 25% Conshohocken resident participation base, considering the waiver of the fees that are associated with whatever that final schedule looks like. And we'll break down those numbers for you based off of what that final schedule is
Are you
determined.
thinking tournament in year one?
We are trying to have a tournament in August, but for right now, the tournament would not include the A or B field just because we don't have any agreement to it. Our initial intention was to try and do the tournament solely at Victory Fields. The school district has rebuffed that because it's the beginning of fall sports for them. So we're going to have to probably do some kind of a makeshift arrangement with maybe Miles Park, maybe even use Plymouth Elementary for a field. We're working it out right now, but
Or the Borough, if it all goes well.
Or the Borough, if it all goes well, yes. I mean, so the A field, because we're not, our initial year for the first year for the tournament, we are not going to have an 11v11 division. So we could use the A field, but we would have to shrink it using, our company. But the B field is perfectly set up for a 9v9
So,
tournament.
and we would also, part of that agreement, be working out the relationship between the entity that Colonial Soccer utilizes for field preparation and our union, and what that looks like. So all of those nuances need to be determined
Sure.
and agreed upon.
And when you say tournament, is it like a single day tournament? Is it a whole weekend? Because I've seen some soccer tournaments with soccer clubs that, bring in all kinds of people and.
Yeah, so the model that we've come up with is 1 day for boys and 1 day for girls. So we would use the field both days. We have found, especially with the late summer tournaments, that it's better to do 1 day because a lot of people will travel for vacations on Saturdays, so they can either miss the first day of their vacation or come home early and go with the second. So Whitpain does that. They do it the last week of August. We're trying to be cognizant of the clubs around us, so our proposed date is August 10th and 11th right now to do it. Yeah, Whitpain does boys. Both of our kids played in it last year. They have, fortunately for them, they have one single huge facility that they use. We don't have that, so we'll be popping around to different fields. But we alluded to this in the meeting that we had last time. EPYSA actually hosted what it was the Mid-Atlantic President's Cup. They had teams that came from Maine all the way through Virginia. And they played, I think everything was at Victory Fields, right?
So that's what you might be referring to. So that tournament ran a little bit longer. Now that's a special travel tournament for more elite teams.
Right, okay.
But they were in this area from like a Wednesday to a Sunday.
And in that scenario, we would be encouraging coordination with our restaurants, businesses, and hotels.
Correct.
Perfect.
So they did, and I actually said to Ms. Checo in our initial meeting, they had actually reached out to me 2 days before the tournament went off and said, hey, can you socialize this to the local restaurants? I'm like, you have to be, we've known about this the whole time, and now you're reaching out to do this. So if I was given a little bit more time, I probably could have executed that.
Okay, great, thank you.
But that is something we will, like, when we have the tournament, we're going to be encouraging local businesses to come. And we have different sponsorships from all over the place that sponsor, whether it's they buy a sign at JFK Park or they actually sponsor a division. Like we always, whether it's our lap tournament, which is our intramural end of season tournament, or this tournament, we encourage all of our local businesses to come and market the product and set up a tent, whatever they want to do. The Stretch Lab. They're one of our sponsors for one of our divisions, and they've done demos for parents and stuff like that at different practices and stuff. So yeah, with local businesses, as long as they sponsor us, they're more than welcome to come to any of our stuff and show what they're about.
Okay, and if what the borough can offer, so your ask was basically 5 days a week, Monday through Friday on the B field, and if the borough can offer a limited portion of that ask for year one, it's a relationship that you're still interested
Absolutely.
in entering.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions from council? Okay, there's no vote on this, but it sounds like we would be interested in have you continue to look into what.
Okay, well then,
Yes.
if with those marching orders, then we'll formalize and define what that agreement would look like, and it'll be back on your agenda in 2 weeks for consideration, along with the associated fee waiver that would be associated with the final usage.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, moving along. Next item on the agenda is emergency management update. Ray Sokolowski, Dave Lennon, Tim Gunning, and Calvin Perlman. Would you mind coming up to the desk and podium?
10 minutes.
So tonight, you all are here to give us an update on our emergency management services in the Borough of Conshohocken. Welcome, and we are looking forward to hearing about what's going on.
So we'll start with the Deputy Chief, Calvin Perlman. He'll go over some fire department issues.
So first item to recap on is our training. I'll be discussing that. We still have an effect right now for all incoming members of the fire department to achieve NFPA 1001 Firefighter 1 training. It consists of 194 hours of training. It's broken up into 4 modules at the Fire Academy. Right now, as of 2023, we had 1 graduate from that program. We currently have 3 in training in 2024. In addition to the basic level training, we have some more in-depth rescue training for water rescue, rope rescue, and technical rescue. Additionally, we do weekly training drills every Wednesday from 7 to 10 p.m. We had 52 for the year with 146 hours in training. These drills were multiple different scenarios from structural burns, defensive emergency driving, rope rescue, high-angle firefighting, flood and boat operations, hazardous materials, and then our typical first aid and CPR. Turn it over to Tim.
So for 2023, the fire department responded to 662 fire responses, 72% of them inside the borough, 28% of it mutual aid. Our busiest day was Wednesday, of course my day off. It has to be, it just has to be that way. And our busiest time was between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. That's always, it's okay. I understand. Time response, so from dispatch, we have a truck on the road in 3 minutes and at your front door in 6 minutes. So that's pretty good average. 402 annual fire inspections, life safety inspections conducted by the career staff throughout the borough for 2023. QRS calls. Beginning in 2022, the fire department, the borough partnership with Narberth Ambulance in establishing the QRS within the fire department. The QRS unit consists of firefighters trained to a higher level of emergency medical technician, advanced emergency medical technician, and a paramedic. And the fire department's QRS unit responds to all the medical calls within the borough to support Narberth Ambulance. So last year we responded to 191 calls. So between fire and QRS, the fire department responded to 853 calls for 2023. Activities. The Conshohocken Fire Department installed 55 smoke detectors. The smoke detector program, if you need them, all you have to do is call the administration building or email the fire department, and we will come to your house and install smoke detectors. We also do a smoke detector giveaway here every year as well. Sprinkler nights. Sprinkler nights are very popular. They will be back this year. I owe Paul some dates. I will get Paul dates this week. Firehouse Friday. So last year we teamed up with the community center, and every Friday the campers come to the firehouse and we do an event with them for about an hour or two at the firehouse. That was pretty fun. That was new. And we also participated in over 15 private and public events. So we were pretty busy for 2023. It was a great year. I can't thank the members enough. They put a lot of time and effort to make this program work. And I also thank all of council for your support as well. So that's my recap of 2023.
Anyone have any questions for the fire department?
Yes, I'm looking at the incident types.
Yes.
Can you clarify what the 600 series good intent is?
So a good intent call is, so someone's cooking out and the neighbor calls and says they see smoke in someone's backyard or smoke coming from a house, and we go down there, or a fire pit or something like that, and it's just someone cooking out or something like that. That's a good intent call.
how does that differ from a false alarm?
Well, it was somebody trying to do good. A false alarm would be like if we go to a building and the fire alarm malfunctioned, that would be a false alarm.
Where does I smell gas come into play?
We do it often. Gas calls in and out. Yeah, well, we are really good at that.
Any other questions? Sounds like great work. Oh, we have a question from the audience.
Yeah, just a quick question, because we hear in the news about all these gas explosions in different areas, but have we had, I know we've had gas calls and carbon monoxide calls, but have they proven to be anything but just maybe a little gas leak and you have to shut the gas off and get a plumber to come out?
Yeah, we have never had a gas explosion per se. It takes a lot. It's gas and air ratio, so it takes a lot of gas to have an explosion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Joy?
Just so you know, the gas company is in the borough now, changing out the pipes in certain areas.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
When they paved 6th Avenue, didn't they change all those gas pipes at that time?
Was that the water department or the gas company?
It was water, gas will be in this year.
I thought
Right,
it was
the gas is this year.
everybody that was in
No,
there.
they're gonna dig up again.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I'm here to speak about some of our emergency management initiatives. Recently, we met with the USGS to talk about our flood gauge and the progress and status of the gauge. We spoke about the successes that we've had predicting and managing our recent high water level events, which we've had a number of off-season events so far this year, this winter. So we've had some success in predicting and managing that based on information that we're getting from the gauge. We spoke about the accuracy, and the USGS advised us that they have performed recent calibrations on the gauge to make sure that the data we're getting is in fact accurate, and in fact it has been accurate since we've gotten it, and that gives us even more information to work with, because typically we had been working off of the Norristown gauge, and now we have our own gauge. We can work to combine with both of those gauges to provide more manageable and predictable events. We spoke about cameras, and we plan to, for installation of up to 3 cameras in the area of the gauge. And what this will do is this will give us better monitoring of the area where we're receiving the information from, and also provide us with real-time web access to the river, and we'll be able to monitor that here and provide access to the community for monitoring of our river levels. We spoke about some of our next steps. Next steps for the USGS to provide us is water level mapping tools, and this would be in the form of computer-based software models to show us where the levels of water are going to land when we have incidents that rise above the bank. So the way that we're going to do that is provide them with some recent survey information that has been provided to the borough through all the development that's happening in that area, and then they will take that survey elevation information and combine that with water level information that they have, and then they'll be able to provide us with some mapping. So we'll more accurately know exactly where the water levels will land when they rise to those levels. So really exciting stuff. And then after we met with the USGS, we were contacted by a group of engineers that is working for the Manayunk redevelopment association, I guess you would say. They contacted these engineers to try to tackle some of the issues that they're dealing with at Manayunk. So they had heard about what we're doing here. They asked to have a meeting with us, so we met with them. We had a really great meeting. We talked about all the emergency management initiatives that we've taken on. how our council has really supported us and behind us and driven all of these initiatives. And we were able to provide them with a lot of information and a lot of plans that we do and programs that we have here in place. And they took back all this information, and they're going to put this into this report that they're going to give the Development Association, and then we'll be invited back to look at that report later. So we're hoping to pull some information from that to see what they come up with, and we're very confident that you're going to see a lot of things in that report that they are going to suggest to the community of Manayunk that we're currently doing here now. So it was really something interesting to talk to them about that. Next, I'll talk about our radio dispatch console. So last year we installed that. We had a recent success with the dispatch console during the St. Patrick's Day parade. We operated the dispatch console for 10 hours straight. We had 4 operators, 2 at a time, and we had a dispatch supervisor. We monitored 5 channels during the event. We handled several priority calls during the event. We had no issues with it. It was very successful. We conquered and divided. We divided up our dispatchers into the 2 dispatch stations, and they were each responsible for monitoring different channels, and it worked out very well. Moving forward with the dispatch console, we're going to add another radio tile, which is another radio channel to handle UHF radio traffic. So that would give us the ability to monitor channels that Plymouth Township Police have for their local, Narberth Ambulance has for their operating, and some municipalities in the eastern part of Montgomery County. And then we'll be complete with UHF, VHF, and 800 digital. So we'll have everything that's available for us to monitor.
Could I cut in?
Yep.
Can you say how many people? So you talked about the St. Patrick's Day parade.
Mm-hmm.
So you handled emergency management from here.
Yes.
How many people did we have in the borough that day?
Reports vary, but I would say.
What's an average number? What's the number we're going with?
Conservative number, 22.
22,000 people, and you handled it all from this?
We handled it all from there. Yeah, it was an excellent example of what we can do with the right equipment.
Okay, thank you. Well, yeah, and I want to celebrate. I mean, this is.
St. Patrick's Day was wonderful. I enjoyed the parade. I felt safe. I saw them all talking to each other, so.
There you go. Right. This is. Well, I want to make sure we celebrate it. Good job. I'm glad we got you the right equipment, and I'm glad it worked. So.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep.
Yep. And we'll continue to expand with that, and we'll continue to run operations. The next thing I'd like to talk about just briefly is our UAV drone unit. We've had some recent successes with that. Also, in the last week and a half, we've conducted 2 operations, 1 small scale and 1 large scale river rescue operations, where we were on the river in our municipality, and then as recently as last night, we were in Upper Marion for several hours conducting drone operations. In last night's operation, we were able to have 2 drones in the air at one time, providing real-time video of the operations that were going on the water for the incident command. So we set up right in the incident command. We were able to have the incident commanders watching in real time what the actual firefighters were doing out in the water in two separate areas. They had areas of boat operations, and just below the dam, they had areas of firefighters that were in the water waiting for this boat to get dislodged. So again, we were able to go there. We were able to deploy our drones. The county drone unit was there. They had some technical issues. We didn't have any technical issues. We were able to put drones up. We brought them. We were there for probably 4 hours with no issues. And it was, we got compliments from everyone in Incident Command about how valuable this data and information was to them during the incident. So we continue to utilize these, and we've had just nothing but success with this program. So thank you for your support.
So Dave, when you're talking about real time, so not only are you using drones to look for things that
might be bad guys or that, but you're also using that for safety of our staff when they're doing dangerous types of activities, it sounds like, along the river.
Absolutely, and Steve Young was able to take video of these operations yesterday, and he's going to incorporate that into future river rescue trainings that we not only do here, but that he does when he teaches out in the area. And Calvin was able to provide, through some software that we have, an actual link that we can text each one of those incident commanders where they can just tap on that link on their phone and see exactly what we're seeing on that drone. So some really neat stuff.
It's great.
It was convenient to watch it from home and the basketball game at the same time.
That's all I have, thank you.
Just a quick question, you said that they had some technical issues with the drones. The borough did not. How do you actually maintain that kind of level of making sure that they're ready to go at the drop? I'm just curious as to what you attribute that to and how you maintain that.
I would say that Calvin here is solely responsible for spending numerous hours here after hours, updating the software on the drones, being in contact with the drone manufacturer, being in contact with our drone supplier, and making sure that all of these units are ready to go all the time. I can't thank him enough for the hours that he puts into this. And I will say that we were able to overcome the technical difficulties because of his preparedness. And the technical difficulty that they encountered was a temporary flight restriction. And we had the necessary protocol in place to go through with the FAA and ultimately the UAV supplier, which is in China, and get a waiver on the phone from the FAA and then contact the supplier in China and unlock our unit to fly in an emergency situation. So the county was unable to do that at the time. And that's all due to our policy and preparation.
Yeah, no, great job to all of you. That's cool. I was curious because why that happened. That's really, Calvin, great job. Like, that's awesome to hear.
We're a little handcuffed in our area with temporary flight restrictions. President living in Wilmington, traveling to Wilmington, anywhere in that scope of where the president is or travels is a temporary flight restriction. So we see them quite often, and Calvin was able to come up with a process. To that point, even the person who has taught us everything on drones and has sold us all our drone equipment is very impressed with the quickness and ability of him to be able to get that done, because he's tried it himself and has not been as successful.
So I'm just going to take the opportunity to say that we always talk about council's decision to invest in the equipment side of the emergency management team, but I think what you're seeing is your decision to also invest in the personnel side is a huge benefit to the Borough of Conshohocken and the residents and the businesses and our surrounding municipalities. So thank you.
We need to stop. I think we're making Calvin uncomfortable.
Well,
Calvin, stand up, take a laugh.
That's his normal tan.
Can we get him to do one of those ESPN 5 drone races?
Do we have enough drones to do that?
A quick question about the flood gauge. Do our neighboring municipalities on the river, Bridgeport, Norristown, Royersford, are they up to this kind of sophistication with how they're monitoring water levels?
No.
I figured.
In a simple question, no.
Okay.
And again, council has supported that effort, and this is an effort that will pay dividends for years to come. And one of the other things that I failed to mention was that the USGS wants to bring National Weather Service monitoring to this gauge. So as when you're watching the Weather Channel and you see the Norristown flood gauge, well, Conshohocken will hopefully be on there very shortly. So
that's awesome.
they're taking it upon themselves to do that. We don't have to do anything. They wanted to do that because of the equipment we have. And to make a long story short with the other municipalities, our heights were 7 feet different between what we were monitoring forever and what we're monitoring now. So when we were using the Norristown gauge, if the record flood here was monitored at 26.8 feet, it was actually 33 feet because we were 7 feet off. So there's tributaries along the way between here and Bridgeport that were never accounted for. And it's a funneling effect from the Barbados Island area in Bridgeport down to here. So that's what we kind of think causes it. But 7 feet is a considerable amount. And this will give us a more accurate, hopefully we never have to come up to a flood that we've seen, but like the last one, but at least we'll have more accurate equipment for the population that we have down there to be able to emphasize what needs to be done.
Thank you.
Good? Good.
Any other questions?
I'm sorry.
Any other questions?
So I'll finish up quickly. So from the emergency management perspective, which this is all falling under one envelope, understand emergency management is usually an after action or prior to an incident. That's what emergency management does. And we basically, the emergency management process is to assist whatever agency is spearheading that particular incident. So we've taken it upon ourselves to combine everything and to make it a structure that I think is working very well for us right now. Everybody's on board, which is the very important thing. Usually you have, one or two departments that are not, but that's not the case for us. Everybody's on board and it's working out pretty good. From the emergency management overall perspective, so large events are basically what we deal with. We don't deal with the smaller events. We just assist if that needs to happen. We have, for instance, the bike race that's coming up in August, or the St. Patrick's Day Parade. So when we talk about drones, we put drones up several times during that period of time, just in case somebody's walking on a rooftop and shouldn't be there. That we've found everything from people walking on rooftops to the hatch of the church that they didn't know was dislodged for probably 20 years. We found that with the drone, and the police went up there to look, and it wasn't a problem. But those are the things that we've learned from looking at other incidents that have happened in places like Chicago and the suburbs of Chicago and different incidents that if we have the equipment and we have the personnel that can handle those situations, we do. If we don't, we do borrow that equipment from the county. The county does have numerous pieces of equipment that are just too expensive for us to purchase. So we do borrow it. Camera systems we borrow from them. They have a drone with a tether that can stay up for 24 hours a day if they need to. So it's not like we're totally, we can totally dislodge ourselves from the county. That's not, I don't think that's from our perspective. We want to be independent as possible. But we also are in a position where sometimes we have to help them, and that's a good position to be in. So we are, one of the things that we're doing since the last time we talked is identifying some of our vulnerable individuals in our municipality and our vulnerable buildings. By vulnerable individuals, I think we all know who we're talking about, people that either elderly, have some disability that needs to be taken care of. We're going to try to do as best we can to identify where those people live, but a lot of that is their choice. And if there's anything that we can do during an emergency situation, especially those areas that can have a flood like Washington Street, we want to make sure that we know if someone's in one of those apartments that's going to need extra assistance. Now it's not only going to be apartments because we also have the White Marsh side of it, and obviously we're going to have a lot to do with that when it comes to the emergency response. So we want to make sure that we have a good inventory of who we have to take care of in these instances and have early contact with them so they know this is what we can do for you, this is what we can't do for you. As far as our buildings go too, we have some buildings. Marshallee Tower, I guess, is the best example. Sean is working with them right now on a few things, and One of the things is that they don't really have a communal IT kind of a router where they can sit down and look at. Some of them use their phone. Some of them call their families when they need to get stuff done on the internet. So we are setting up a meeting with the county to have a conversation with them to try to get something in the building for the residents. A lot of times when we reach out to some individuals, we can get some pretty quick results as far as purchasing, let's say, a computer that they can put into a rec room and be able to use. But we're going to go over that with the county and ask them why, first of all, they don't have that available. And second of all, if there's anything we can do to assist. So those are the type of buildings we're talking about identifying and understanding that there could be a problem going down the line. Along with that, we looked at our vulnerability as a borough and our building. So we did speak to council, did have a presentation from an IT person about that, and that actually went very well for us. It went well for our IT people because the results of that were pretty good on our part. But we're not reactionary when it comes to this. We want to get ahead of it. We don't want to have an incident. Everybody kind of knows what happened in Upper Merion. We don't want to have an incident like that and then bring these people on board. We have them on board. They're there to help us. But we've built a pretty strong infrastructure to try to prevent it from happening. But no matter how that strong the infrastructure is, there's always a vulnerability. There's always a potential for it to happen. So we have that built into our plan too. And then our other physical assets, the buildings that we actually own, the Public Works building and some of the other buildings, we're looking at that. We're also trying to address buildings that we don't own. So we rent the 6 bays of Washington Fire Company. We want to make sure we don't have any vulnerabilities there. We don't own the number 2 fire station either. That's owned by them as individuals. So we'll have conversation with them to make sure that, because our people work there all day, we want to make sure that there's not a way in to our system through the computers that we have up there. And that should tighten us up as far as our potential vulnerabilities. As far as the first responders go, we are assessing always, and during budget season especially, any requests from the first responders. The EMS part of this is Narberth Ambulance, and I want to emphasize how important Narberth Ambulance is to the structure of emergency management and their representation in the borough of Conshohocken. When you talk about fire department response to an incident, their time frames to an incident are as good, if not better. So not a lot of places can have an ambulance there within 2 to 3 minutes. Not a lot of ambulance companies can have someone on board that can not only save somebody's life, but if they had something like a stroke, can prevent critical damage before they get to the hospital. Narberth Ambulance is on the cutting edge of all that. The EMTs, they're trustees. It's a quasi-volunteer trustee kind of situation there, but they've been a great asset for us, and going forward, that relationship's not going to change. They didn't have anybody at this one, but 6 months from now, when we have another meeting, Narberth will be here, and they'll speak about what their plans for the future are. The police, fire, we're always looking at everything, including the equipment that generally is the big issue with police, fire is fire trucks, police cars, things like that. So I know that we're having a push towards electric vehicles. We have to see what that looks like, and we're going to take steps in order to do that on a small scale and see how that works out for us. We've tried to reach out to some other departments and other municipalities who have used electric vehicles for their entire fleet, and that turnover seemed to be a problem. It would be similar to purchasing computers all at one time. And then when you need to purchase computers, you need to purchase all new computers all at the same time. So we're going to try to span that out a little bit. But obviously that's the direction that everything's going. We just don't want to do it all at once. So we're going to in the near future, we're going to take some measures in order to see what electric vehicles how they'll work and what they'll look like in the borough of Conshohocken. Again, I want to emphasize one thing, that as far as the fire stations go, and this is continuously a conversation, we do not own number 2 fire station. We do not own Washi's fire station. These are independently owned by either a trust, the company, or some type of, what do they call number 2's ownership?
It's a nonprofit.
Nonprofit. But it has nothing to do with the borough of Conshohocken. They have everything we want to do at those buildings has to go through a system in order to make it happen. So we do not have a building, a permanent location that is owned and operated out of the borough of Conshohocken. They get both fire companies. We rent one. We rent Washi's for a sum of money, and number 2, it uses the money that they're given on an annual basis in order to take care of their buildings. And obviously, as these buildings get older, those issues may be worse and worse and worse. So those are some things that we're going to have to look at the fire stations. We can have all the equipment in the world, we can have all the people in the world, but if you got to know where to put them, then we got a problem. And we certainly don't have a problem with volunteers. I mean, we're probably one of the best volunteer-wise as far as personnel goes in the entire county. For the most part, that's it. We have some things that are going to that potentially are going to happen in the future with the county. I just want to make sure, in case somebody hears this outside and they don't know what they're talking about. The county has gotten into an agreement with an outside company to assess the COVID response and future responses to COVID type of incidents, which is infectious diseases, large infectious disease incidents. So you might hear bits and pieces about this. Myself, Tim, Dave, and a few other people were at the first meeting with them. Unfortunately, the person who ran the program left a couple days after that, so they had to hire somebody else. But they're going to look into what the response is on these large-scale incidents. We're going to help as much as we can. Norristown was there with us. Montgomeryville was there with us. We all agreed that we have different needs, and we will help the best we can. So you might hear bits and pieces about how the county is doing this in the future and trying to come up with an idea. That idea is going to be a collaboration of all the municipalities, trying to get a formalized structure as to who runs what department runs what. There's confusion on whether it's a public safety issue or whether it's a health department issue. So that all needs to be worked out. But at the end of the day, we will be a big part of that. We will definitely keep our ears to the ground and make sure that we are part of any of those discussions going into the future. That is all I have.
Rick, can I make a suggestion?
Certainly.
Before the new ones got here, we had a workshop on how the emergency management ran. Is there a way for us to redo that so that they all know the chain of command and how it goes?
Sure. It'll be a little more complicated now that we have, right?
We did offer the G402, right? For now.
Yeah, that's a county kind of.
That's a county, I took.
Yeah, we're talking
I took
about like
that
the one that we ran out of our emergency. Yeah, we'll have something. Dave will be glad to run it. He's already offered that. So.
I did my NIMS.
It'll be directly after this meeting.
Yeah, I don't think so.
So, yeah, we generally have to put together a scenario.
Right.
And everybody will know what their roles are as council people, and, and you'll know what that kind of situation looks like. We'll probably incorporate that into some other kind of, a larger incident.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Anyone else have questions? Okay, hearing no questions, thank you. Good report.
item on the agenda, we have no land use matters or public hearings or ordinance reviews this evening. So we'll go right into manager matters. So the first item under manager matters is to consider accepting the resignation of a Friends of Conshohocken Parks member. I am looking for a motion to accept the resignation of Annika Petrosky from the Friends of Conshohocken Parks.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item is consider awarding a contract for the 2024 Liquid Fuels Road Program. So at the last council meeting, we heard about the 2024 Liquid Fuels Road Program, and we're looking to contract with Scott Contractors Incorporated for the bid and alternate bid number 1 in the amount of $914,570 plus engineering cost, contingent upon receiving authorization to award from all funding agencies.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
And President Sokolowski, just for the record, I just want to make it clear that the contractor went through the responsible contractor ordinance requirements, and the borough engineer has deemed that the contractor and all of its listed subcontractors is responsible in accordance with that ordinance.
Great, thank you for that clarification. All right, next item on the agenda is to consider approving a block party request for the 400 block of East 9th Avenue. The block party is being requested on Saturday, August 24th, 2024, contingent upon final review and approval of borough administration. Looking for a motion to approve the block party.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is to consider approving another block party requested for Pleasant Valley Homes Development on Saturday, May 11th, 2024, contingent upon final review and approval of borough administration.
Where's that being held?
It's down my wall.
Yeah,
It's it's Pleasant Valley Drive and Lenape Lane, so it's
Oh.
actually off of Caldwell Lane
oh, okay.
on Lenape Lane.
Okay.
So I'm looking for a motion to approve the block party on May 11th.
Make that motion. I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. That concludes all of our agenda items this evening. So I will move to our council and mayor matters. Mayor Aronson?
Thank you, President Sokolowski. I was invited by one of our Boy Scouts, Alex Bland, who's working on his Eagle Scout project at the Fritz Lodge and at the Fritz Park that we just installed. He is making and installing a little free library for the park, a new bench for the park, and then a new way for members of the lodge to display awards. So really super labor intensive. He took me through like the staining and this whole process that was way above me, but an incredible amount of work, and he was really proud to show it off. So congratulations to Alex, and we look forward to seeing all those additions at the new Fritz Park. And then, of course, big congratulations to the EAC for putting on the second Green Fest. It was just bigger, better, all the good words. A lot of community engagement, from the yoga home to the community garden to IKEA. Like really just a lot of engagement. And I know our team puts on, like Shauna does quite a bit of work to help organize. So thank you to everyone involved. Adrian for advising the EAC and making it all happen. It was a great event. And then to our police department, we had our Take Back Day on Saturday. So thank you to our department and for Chief Lennon for running that. We actually participated. I don't know if Thomas was excited as we were, but thank you to our PD for running that. And then I saw Walter Hartnett from our VFW. I'm assuming he wanted to remind everyone that Saturday, May 18th, is flag planting at St. Matt's Cemetery. And then May 25th, Saturday, is the flag planting at Calvary Cemetery. And that we'll have our Memorial Day ceremonies on Monday, May 27th. And that's it for me.
Thank you. Mr. Fry?
I'm good.
Ms. Elm?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Nothing. Ms. Kinsley? Ms. Barton?
I just want to say that Saturday was really good, and there was a good turnout for it, and it was just a lot of fun.
Great, thank you. Mr. Cerna?
Nothing.
Mr. Shimaleski?
Nothing from me tonight, thank you.
And I have nothing tonight. Do we have any public comment this evening? Okay.
Okay, now my public comments are just, they don't have to do with what we talked about today.
Anything you want.
So I
That's okay.
just wanted to bring it up. My name is Joy Manis, and I'm at 222 West 6th Avenue. And just some things that have come to my attention within the borough that I wanted to bring to your attention and to find out if I have to go to somebody else. 422 West 6th Avenue has a sign on his lawn now for his moving service. And the sign was not part of the zoning agreement. Who do I speak to?
That has been removed as of yesterday.
Okay, I didn't drive down today, so I couldn't say. Yesterday removed. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's answer your question, though. Let's say they put it back up, who should she talk to?
You can call me, and we refer it to the zoning officer, and the zoning officer, like she did this time, went out, evaluated the sign, found it to be in violation of the zoning ordinance, and therefore a zoning enforcement letter was drafted, but they removed it because we did contact them to let them know that we were going to send the enforcement letter out, and it was removed upon contact.
Right. That's good. And I previously brought up at a council meeting about commercial trucks on a residential street. And instead of addressing this as it being a commercial truck, the limit was raised from 9,000 pounds to 11,000 pounds, and you can have a bigger truck. But I was talking about, I wasn't talking about. I was told at the meeting by the previous president that because of the pandemic, people probably got perks, and the truck was the perk. Well, the pandemic is over, and this is a borough residential area, and I do not believe that these trucks belong on our streets. And I'm only talking 6th. I've got 4 trucks on 6th, one on Maple. If you go down to 10th or 11th, you got Bernardino Construction is parked there, and that's a big truck. So I'm looking for clarification when we're called BR1, Business Resident, Borough Resident 1, why are there commercial trucks on our streets? Why hasn't that changed to go back to the way that it was? Because we never had these trucks before the pandemic.
I can speak to that. If you're talking about vehicles driving on the roadway.
No, I'm talking about people who live on my street, 6th Avenue, and the president had said at that time that they probably got a perk from work because of the pandemic, that they could have one of their business vehicles to drive to work to. So they're parked there at night. I hear the beep, beep, beep as they're backing up, and they're over. It's a residential street. Why are trucks allowed to park from 5 o'clock at night till 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning? And some of them even take more than, like, I think that the lines to the streets on 6th Avenue are pretty big for parking. And the Gorkon truck takes 1.5 spaces. Why is this able to continue?
So, motor vehicles in Pennsylvania are allowed to use the roadway. They pay registration fees. included in that registration fee is the right to use the roadway. We talk about fuel, liquid fuels taxes, that federal dollars and state dollars that we get to resurface roadways, right? So that enables all vehicles to use the roadway. So we cannot prohibit that. What the borough does is, the borough does prohibit certain vehicles. So most municipalities let these vehicles park on the street, even if they're residential streets, right? Because they're allowed to be on the roadway. So the borough has gone above and beyond by creating this truck ordinance. And the idea behind modifying that truck ordinance was to satisfy some of the requirements of people's personal vehicles.
These aren't personal vehicles. These have company names on the
But that-
outside of them. That's a
But that was,
commercial.
but that was explained to Borough Council, and that was understood, right? Because some people have vehicles that they are required to take home for their job. It's not a perk, it's a requirement. So some communities some neighborhoods in our communities don't support alley parking, right? So they have no other choice, right? And we have residents that have contacted the police department and contacted borough council members and said, I'm required to bring this vehicle home. I can't park it behind my house. I have to park it on the street. So I worked with the solicitor and we discussed this with borough council and we created an ordinance that accommodates a certain level of commercial vehicle based on its size and weight. And the ordinance spells out that very stringently, like it has never done before. So yes, you are going to see some commercial vehicles on your street, but they are in the ordinance. And if you see something that you think is not in the ordinance, reach out to the police department and we will take a look at it. But if you see what that ordinance looks like, the intent of that ordinance is to accommodate larger vehicles, because what happened with our old ordinance was we were going out enforcing this 9,000-pound limit, and we were putting tickets on people's personal Ford and Chevy F-250 and F-350 trucks, which was not the intent of that original ordinance.
But one of those trucks that you're talking about is a person's individual truck that they're paying a lease payment or a loan payment, and I understand that. I wasn't talking them, I'm talking one that has a business name on the side of the truck, and soon my street's gonna look like, 5 Caldwell Lane with all the business trucks on it, and I'm just trying to avoid it to turn into that. I shouldn't have to see trucks galore, and I
But
think.
I don't think that the municipality should punish someone for being required to bring their truck home. And they're allowed to, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, drive that vehicle and park it on any street, right? We've gone above and beyond that by creating an ordinance that takes into account the residential nature of our community. So it's not going to please everyone.
I gotcha.
Joy, just to chime in, I'm actually in the contracting industry, and a lot of our employees, they do take their work trucks home. And to put it in context, these guys are some of the hardest working guys that are in the field for 8 to 10 hours a day. And we allow that strictly because it improves their quality of life to be able to see their family and not have to drive into the office, into the shop, get their vehicle, drive to the work site, drive back to the shop. It improves their overall quality of life. I get the frustration with it.
That's their quality of life.
I
understand
I
that.
get the
But
frustration.
what about all the other people's
I
quality of
understand
life?
that. I'm just telling you that those people who are doing that, there is value in having those people in the community and people like that do that really hard work to give them that little extra ability to be able to have that. It is a nice, and again, you mentioned it, perk. It is a perk, and the trades are barren these days. Finding good people to actually do this kind of work is very, very difficult. So I always encourage people when they look at those tradespeople, they're really doing good stuff out there, and there's not enough of them right now. So I can't tell you that I'm going to fix your problem here. I just want to put you in context for who these people are, because I work with them every single day, and they are the hardest working people that I have come across, hands down. So again, I'm not going to solve your answer, but I just did want to put some context to it, because the law is one thing, but the actual spirit of it is something that I just wanted to
I
indicate.
gotcha. And I appreciate it. I was just trying to get a clearer picture of it, but I got 4 now. So what happens when we get even more? What are the people who live there? What are
Well,
people going
I
to start
think
parking?
something that Ralph was touching on is that, and you referenced this, that we had mentioned it, that was a pandemic-style perk. Businesses all evolved now and changed so that this is more of a permanent perk. So if more people on your street get employed and find gainful employment, and that means they have to take a truck home, you will see more of those trucks on your street, those that belong to the residents of your street. But I don't foresee it going back, because now this is how businesses and the trades operate. They do allow the employees to take their trucks home. So
Okay. I was just looking for clarification because the pandemic was the reason used. Well, now that's gone.
now
and-
it's the way business is done,
Yeah,
because
okay.
otherwise you can't find good employees.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate all that. And thank you for you too. The pedestrian crossings at 4th and 7th, this is just my opinion, I could be totally wrong, but I don't think it's working very well. I have to point to people before I start walking, hey, look, the lights are blinking, the lights are blinking. Soon I'm going to have to carry a sign because they're not seeing the signs. And I was under the impression it was supposed to be a stop, red light, green light. And when I saw the flashing signs, I thought, okay, we'll see how it works. But these people just aren't stopping. So is anything in the works to, because God forbid someone gets killed, that's now, those streets were targeted because there were fatal accidents. What's going to happen when the next one happens? They're going to try and do negligence because they're going to say that you didn't do enough. So is anything in the works to
Dave,
who said that?
the chief.
I only hear in one ear, so I can't tell where it's coming from.
So I can tell you that our officers have been conducting traffic details, and if you go down here to 4th Avenue at lunchtime, when we see typically the most usage out of the 4th Avenue sign, or you go to 7th Avenue later in the day, you'll see an officer sitting there, right? That officer is actually doing a count of how many people cross the street, how many people are abiding by what you're seeing as the sign. So we are monitoring that. We are conducting vehicle stops, and we are writing tickets for that. So even if you don't see it every day, we are doing it and we are tracking it in the police department. So I think it's also important to understand what the law is in Pennsylvania, because the law is not the same as other states. The law in Pennsylvania says that the pedestrian has to wait until it's safe to cross the street, right? Some other states say that you can step out into the street and the vehicle has to stop, right? We see this in a lot of shore towns and
So then
places by the
technically
beach.
you're saying that just because it's a pedestrian crossing and the lights are flashing, there's really nothing I can do but wait and
It's not
hope
a
that they stop.
Right? It's not a stop, it's a yield, right? We're yielding for those pedestrians. But it's important to note that the responsibility is on the pedestrian to make sure that it's safe to cross the street before they step out. And once they are out in the street, now the responsibility is on the driver to stop. All right? So the responsibility really starts with the pedestrian.
Okay,
All right?
gotcha, thank you.
Joy, one of the initiatives this new council is looking at is how to educate.
Yeah, because some people don't know to click the button so the lights can flash.
Yeah,
I
so,
don't know
so
how-
what you'll
how to-
see being developed are different mechanisms where we can put education out to our residents that may be interactive, maybe more video type based. So that's what's coming kind of in the future. Right now, we don't have necessarily that mechanism or platform. So education has to come in meetings like this or in the festivals and different things. But what you'll see is this council is very committed to being able to educate the residents on, you know, how we want to be as a borough.
I gotcha. I'm almost done. Then we talked about the larger trucks that, you know, they got these big Chevy trucks, Fords, whatever. When they park near a corner, you can't see. when I come out of my alley, because I park in the alley, and at the end of the Don Len, he starts the alley. I don't know whose truck it is, it's not the construction company yet, but there's this big truck, so I gotta literally pull out into the street to be able to see if someone's coming. And then if I'm trying to make a right, I can't see on that side either, because there's another big truck. What can we do to can we put up like little mirrors in all these, at all these alleyways or something? Because
So the alleys are private property, right?
Don Len's building's not a public property, is not an alleyway. So is there some way that we can ask some people to, I'm sure everyone else is having this problem, it can't just be me. So I was.
Chief Lennon.
Why don't you just come up here with me?
You can always come see me. I will tell you that the borough has always had an issue with parking, right? Parking is a huge issue. It has always been, it is, it will most likely be, right? If we were to line the streets and the stop signs as per PennDOT code, there would be probably hundreds of less parking spaces. So are you right in what you're saying is that people park up to the stop sign and park up to the driveways and the streets?
I was told as
Absolutely
long
right.
as they don't cross that line.
Well, I'm gonna tell you that technically, that shouldn't really be the way that PennDOT wants that spelled out, right? But the borough has for a long, long time taken into consideration the parking requests of all the residents. So what the borough has done is create ordinances around parking to allow people to have as much parking as we can. And that's where you see parking up to the stop sign, parking up to the driveway. So is there some increased issue of danger there? Yes. But again, go slow. It's your responsibility when you're entering a roadway to look.
Which I'm doing, but
Right.
that person just
But-
figures, hey, you're in the wrong, lady, I'm in the right, and they just,
But we would lose hundreds of parking spots if we eliminate if we go by the sight line that is required by federal standards. So you have to pick and choose these things, right? And parking is usually paramount here. So that would be my answer.
all right. I'm gonna have a long mirror to go out the window to see if anyone's coming. I'm really serious, I can't see until I have a Hyundai.
Understood.
So I can see what's coming either way. I can't see. And they're so far into the street that you have to pull out further, and you're already into the lane of traffic, and you don't know that traffic's coming.
Joy, do you have that problem if you go out the other end of the alley?
Sometimes, but not normally. But I'm not normally going that way. I'm going up to 6 to Fayette, I don't want to have to go down and come around, but I understand that, and I think I'm almost done. Oh, for the alleyways, does anyone go around advising property owners to clean up their yards? I mean, the grass is getting too long, there's weeds on people's properties that they must think that it's a tree or something. It's not, it's a weed and it looks ugly. And you have trash back there,
We have property inspectors, so if you have a specific concern about a specific property, you can just call me or email me, and we'll have an inspector go out and take a look at the property. They can only enforce within their property maintenance code, but they can definitely go out.
Okay, and cars are parking in the alley. Now, I've been writing little notes, I just want to let you know that parkings are not allowed in the alleyways, Thank you, your neighbor. And I haven't seen them park there again, so that's been pretty good. But when you go down, and it's part of my walking, my alley down to past 7th to where what's-his-face lives, Papachich. There's 3 cars that park there, and that's right across from the high-rise. And a fire truck wouldn't be able to make it there safely, so they're always parked there. So I just wanted to bring that to someone's attention. And the last thing, I know you're tired of hearing from me. In the state of Pennsylvania, tinted windows are not allowed except in certain circumstances. And we have too many cars that the windows are pitch black. Is there anything that can be done I know people have to make a living,
Chief
but
Lennon?
all I'm thinking of is someone coming down, and I can't see their face because it's tinted windows, you know? You have to start thinking about your own public safety now. Yes, Chief?
So, tinted windows are illegal in Pennsylvania, right, except for, like you said, certain applications. Where we lost the battle with this is that this used to be something that inspection mechanics were able to enforce. So when you would go get your car inspected, it would fail inspection if you had tinted windows, right? So a number of years ago, less than 10, PennDOT took that off of the list of things that inspection mechanics were able to enforce. So once that happened, that's when you see that's when we saw a large increase of vehicles with tinted windows. So do we stop people for tinted windows? Yes. Do we write them tickets for tinted windows? Yes. What we see now and what we're more focused with is when we see front windshields tinted, if you're noticing that is becoming
Every window so darkly
Right.
tinted, you can't even tell if it's 1 or 5 people in the car.
Yeah, so we do.
Okay. I just thought I would bring it up because it's getting scary out there and you never know. You want to be able to say, oh yeah, I can tell you what the person looks like because I survived. Well, I can't tell you what they look like because the windows are covered and then they got masks on. But thank you everyone for listening to my gripes. I feel that I was heard.
Thank you. All right, with that,
I don't want to stand up, but I would like to meet with the Maryland Park Commission just for 5 minutes after the meeting, please. Do you have time for that?
I have to actually run.
Yeah.
If
That's me.
I needed.
Me as well, yeah.
I just have to run. I have a daughter that I have to get home to, but I can give you my phone number.
Okay.
All right. All right. Anyone else? All right. Meeting adjourned.